Well, good evening, all. Good evening, all. Good evening. Very good. Before I start, I just want to say one thing. How about them Dodgers? Well, I want to welcome you to the 2025 Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area in review. I'm Gary Candelaria. I am the undercover president of the board of directors for the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. And I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight. We are most grateful to the City of Westminster for hosting tonight's event. And to get us started, I would like to invite Mayor Mona Becker to come up and say a word of welcome.
Good evening. First of all, what a phenomenal event space. On behalf of the Mayor and Common Council of Westminster, it's my distinct honor to welcome the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area to beautiful Wakefield Valley Event Pavilion for your annual Year in Review celebration. We are thrilled to host such an esteemed group, one that plays a vital role in preserving and interpreting the rich history that defines our region. Our shared mission to preserve the past, protect the future, is evident in the work we do together. From the annual commemoration of Corbett's Charge to projects like the stabilization of the historic Durbin House on these grounds, which I hope you all had a chance to go into the Durbin House to have a look. The partnership between the city and the heritage and the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area is a powerful force for heritage tourism and education. This new event pavilion at Wakefield Valley is the perfect backdrop for events like this. It is a symbol of our commitment to blend our preserved history with modern community spaces. Tonight, as we celebrate 4 years of remarkable achievements, we also celebrate the enduring power of our shared history to educate, inspire, and strengthen our community. Thank you for your tireless efforts and for choosing Westminster as your gathering place tonight. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Becker. Thank you again for the hospitality of Westminster. Tonight is also made possible by the sponsorship of Carroll County Economic Development. And Denise Beaver, who is the Director of Economic Development, is here to say a few words. Denise, please.
Thank you, and welcome. It's a pleasure to welcome you here to the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area's annual meeting, and the very first event that's hosted here, so we're very pleased to be able to sponsor this event to celebrate agritourism as heritage tourism. Whether you're joining us from the three-county region or visiting from farther afield, thank you for being part of this gathering where history, agriculture, and community come together. The Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area has always been about connection. Connecting people to place, past to present, and preservation to progress. Here in the heart of Maryland, our landscapes still echo with stories of the Civil War era, stories of courage, sacrifice, and transformation. Yet today, those same landscapes also are places of growth and learning and renewal. That's why this year's theme, Agritourism as Heritage Tourism, is so meaningful. Farms were at the center of life during the Civil War, and they remain central to our region's identity today. By linking our agricultural heritage to history, we not only preserve the stories of the past, but also sustain the rural traditions that continue to define our communities. From farm tours and living history programs to local food initiatives and conservation partnerships, agritourism gives visitors a chance to experience history where it happened and to see how the land itself continues to shape our experiences and add to our economy. Tonight, we celebrate the partnerships that make this work possible between the farmers and historians, local governments and nonprofits, storytellers, and stewards of the land. Together, we are ensuring that the Heart of the Civil War heritage area remains not just a chapter in the history books, but a thriving landscape of learning, growing, and discovery. There's probably no better place to learn about farm life during the Civil War era than at the Carroll County Farm Museum in Westminster, which showcases farm life in the 1880s. Their numerous educational exhibits are on site, along with our Carroll County Visitor Center, and I encourage you to visit there soon if you haven't been there already. It's a wonderful place to spend an afternoon. And Jane Sewell, who's the manager of our farm museum, is here and can answer any questions. She's in the back there. There's Jane. So we hope that you'll visit the Carroll County Farm Museum to learn more about farm life in the 1880s. And hopefully tonight you enjoyed some Carroll County agricultural products and beverages. At our tourism table, you can learn about Carroll's robust agritourism venues. There's a printed brochure, and then we have an online directory which features over 74 agricultural venues. And those are also fun places to explore. We've been busy this summer and fall with our agritourism passport program. I don't know if anybody's participated, but I've certainly had a lot of fun this year visiting 21 sites that are here preserving and showcasing agritourism in Carroll County. And right now, this fall, we're talking turkey. We've done some videos with the Community Media Center, and we're gonna have a billboard, and we're helping to showcase some of our turkey producers here in the county. And soon we will be promoting the ever-popular Christmas tree and holiday greens farms. So I'd like to thank Liz Chateau and the team at the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area, along with the City of Westminster, and also Carroll County Tourism Manager Bonnie Staub for putting together tonight's events. I look forward to spending the rest of the evening with you and hearing the remarks from our guest speaker, Al Spoler. Welcome to an evening of history, heritage, and Carroll County hospitality.
Thank you, Denise. We're especially delighted that we have several other officials here tonight, including, and if you would stand as you hear your name, Carroll County Commissioner President Kenneth Keeler, Carroll County Commissioner Tom Gordon, Hagerstown City Council Member Martin Brubaker, Keedysville Town Council Member Sarah Baker, and Westminster City Council Member Ann Gilbert, sorry. Yes, what can I say? Some days chicken, some days feathers. We're also delighted today to welcome Michelle Waxman Johnson, Executive Director of the Maryland 250 Commission. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of members of the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area Board, Advisory Council, and our staff. Would you all please stand? We're especially grateful to two Carroll County board members who are rotating off the board this year, Kristen McMasters and Richard Turner. We're also especially pleased to welcome new board members, Diane Betcher and James Shriver. I hope you took the opportunity to check out Heritage Area Dollars at Work in the preserved Durbin House next door. As the evening unfolds, you'll have a chance to hear a brief recap of the fiscal year that ended on 30 June 2025. Enjoy insights presented by our special host, our special guest, radio and TV personality Al Spoler. And obviously, we've already enjoyed the marvelous food and beverages sourced from local people here in Carroll County. Signs will tell you more about the sources for tonight's delicious fare, and I hope you find visits to the farms and vendors and vineyards irresistible this fall. Before I give Liz the stage to take over, I want to take time to reflect on the work of the heritage area, which may be more critical than ever. We are living in a time of uncertainty, especially the diminishment of sources of federal funding to support preservation, conservation, and visitor experience. Fortunately, Maryland's Heritage Areas Authority, the MHAA, does not depend on federal funding. And it's up to us to make sure that MHAA continues to flourish. That includes support of the independent, nonprofit, certified heritage areas, such as ours, that make heritage area benefits available to local governments and other nonprofits. Without the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area, no Carroll, Frederick, or Washington County entity would be eligible for these benefits, including grants. As we come to the next Maryland legislative session, we hope you'll be able to let your elected officials know that you value the state heritage area programs. And with the end of the calendar year in sight, we would like to invite you to consider a gift to help your heritage area continue its work. Now, the Carroll County Community Media Center has produced a little video that we're going to show you. We hope you'll enjoy it. Giving to the heart of the Civil War Heritage Area is more important than ever.
The heritage area helps with
Preservation and stewardship of public lands, filling the gap when other sources of funding are eliminated or in question.
sharing the history that shaped families, communities, and the nation. Understanding past examples of courage, struggle, and triumph offers insight and hope to people today.
Economic growth. Places that retain authentic character attract talent, increase tourism revenues, enhance business development, and fortify local economies.
Any gift that is meaningful to you makes a difference.
Please join us in supporting the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. Your gifts help preserve the past and power the future. I just want to say Kristen will be available to sign autographs at the back of the room later. A version of this video has been included in the combined federal campaign virtual charity fair. If you're a federal worker or retiree, a payroll deduction through CFC is an easy way to help make a difference. The Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area CFC code, which you would need to apply your donation, is 45502. That's 45502. And we hope you'll take this opportunity, if you are eligible to participate in CFC, to help support Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. That's 45502. And now I'd like to ask our Executive Director, Liz Shadow, to give us a brief review of the past fiscal year before we bring on tonight's special guests.
Well, good evening, everybody. I am delighted to see so many of you here in this beautiful space. The evening has already begun well. I can see you've been taking advantage of good food and drink and good company. And as is becoming a bit of a pattern, we are uplifting a special aspect of our multi-dimensional heritage area. Tonight we celebrate agritourism, as you've been hearing. It, in the Heart of the Civil War, is a type of heritage tourism. This time last year, and you see it on our program, our annual report, last year our year in review had us tapping toes to traditional music played by the knuckle dusters, performing arts being another type of visitor experience that we embrace in the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. Fiscal year 2025 MHAA project grants were announced soon after the start of the fiscal year. That would have been July 2024. And while the Maryland Heritage Areas Authority Grant Fund is far too limited to come even close to meeting the need across the state, our heritage area can boast having been awarded more grants in that round than any of Maryland's other 12 heritage areas. Those grant decisions, those grant decisions are not made by local heritage areas, but determined by the State Heritage Areas Authority after local and state grant review panels make their assessments. The fiscal year 25 grants are enumerated in the annual report that you have on page 3, and among them is the Mary Shellman exhibit at the Historical Society of Carroll County, pictured here. If you haven't seen it yet, go and bring your friends and family to be inspired by this incredible woman and her example of servant leadership. Annually, for much of the first half of each fiscal year, our work focuses on assisting potential grant applicants in Carroll, Frederick, and Washington counties. Those awards are made in mid-July, so sharing details about the fiscal year 2026 round will be part of next year's annual meeting. And just the same, I want to let you know that the effort we devoted in early 2025 to assuring highly competitive fiscal year 26 grant applications from the heart of the Civil War paid off. We secured more dollars in 2026, fiscal year 2026 project grants than any other Maryland heritage area. And not only that, but we just learned that one of our unfunded applications that was on the reserve list was just funded, moving us from a three-way tie for first in terms of the number of grants to the premier spot. And you know, it really isn't a competition. All of our heritage areas in the state do good work, but I can't help but crow a little, and that's an agritourism pun for you. The Durbin House, I want to move on to note that the Maryland grant application projects are known to generate impressive economic contributions, at least $450.2 million annually across Carroll, Frederick, and Washington counties. They generate state and local tax dollars, and they create jobs. Think about it. Preservation projects like the Durbin House, which you can see here next to the facility we're in, these projects engage contractors, skilled preservation tradespeople, general laborers, jobs that are partly supported by heritage area grants. People are drawn to heritage area offerings like the Mary Shellman exhibit at the Historical Society or places like Ellsworth Cemetery, pictured here, to explore stories and people, some of whom were almost forgotten. As visitors, including our own residents, discover the power of place unique to our three counties, people find their way to spots like Boggers and the many other fine local eateries for lunch or dinner where servers, hostesses, kitchen staff can attribute some of what keeps them employed to the work the heritage area does to help our local partners deliver superior visitor experiences. A portion of those same travelers shop on our main streets, lodge in local hotels and inns, and partake in local festivals, again, supporting the economy with jobs, taxes, and visitor spending along the way. Now more than ever, people need work. They seek meaning from the past to help navigate the present day. And they long to recreate and celebrate opportunities the heritage area helps to make possible. Of course, our mini grants also pack a big punch. Here you see the installation event for a mini grant funded marker honoring Revolutionary patriots installed in Westminster's Belgrove Square, a hub of Revolutionary commemoration since the nation's centennial year. Delegate Boucher recited a poem of his own composition for the occasion. We just closed the fiscal year 26 mini grant round, so for those of you awaiting results, we should be ready to share those outcomes in December. And this is also a great slide to note that for the past several years, our heritage area has assumed the role of convener and catalyst to encourage grassroots planning for the nation's 250th anniversary. Programming across 3 counties has already begun to roll out, some celebration, some commemoration, and some recognition of unfinished revolution, inviting all to consider the full sweep of 250 years of history, seizing the chance to use history to shape our future. And now one of the Heritage Area's 250th projects was developed in fiscal year 25, but launched just recently, right here in Westminster. So you're gonna hear more about this project next year, and that's the Heart of the Civil War US 250th Geo Tour. Between the launch on September 19th and our last report that we received, which was dated October 25th, the response has been staggering. Thousands of visits all over our 3 counties have been logged. History lessons are learned at each location, and we are drawing travelers, both domestic and international. I can't wait to share more at next year's annual meeting. The other 250th anniversary project is available to you tonight, in a manner of speaking. Last year, and you see a collage representing that event, we piloted a Maryland House and Garden pilgrimage tour in Washington County, chaired by Robin Sumner. It was a successful fundraiser and drew hundreds of tour goers who came from all over the Mid-Atlantic and beyond for a place-based heritage experience. Some of you were involved as a homeowner or an event volunteer. Would you just raise your hands? We're so happy you're here. You have the gratitude of all organizations and visitors who benefit from our services. They continue in part because of your contribution. Now, on June 13th, 2026, it's Frederick County's turn to host. And over here at one of the tables to my right, co-chairs Becky Axelbund and Beth Gura are with us. They have lined up 8 spectacular sites that loosely follow the historic National Road from Middletown to Newmarket, with some stops in Frederick along the way. Tonight, you are among the first to be able to secure tickets, and I strongly recommend Tour Bell passes. They make lovely holiday gifts. They are the least expensive ticket available, and those holding Tour Bell passes can choose any one of the season's several tours, but we will get the credit for the sale. So if June 13th in Frederick County isn't perfect for your gift recipient, they can choose from the tours happening all around the state from late April until mid-June. This year, there will be a hard stop on Tour Bell Pass availability, so tonight's a good night to grab one. You need to buy it before January 31st, 2026. And then after that, you can still get tickets, but the price goes up, and at that point, you do have to select Frederick County as your tour. Beth and Becky are here tonight, and they're very happy to help you with cash or online sales. Also present are some of this year's, at least one of this year's tour hosts, maybe more than one, I think. I think our Civil War enthusiasts are gonna be especially thrilled to visit Ruqayya and Khalid Assad's property, the Dr. Long House. It once provided housing to Federal Army officer Robert Gould Shaw, before his glory days of leading the 54th Massachusetts United States Colored Troops. And that's just one of the many layers of history to be discovered there. So Ruqayya, we're really glad you could join us tonight. Now, I've only hit the highlights of the year in this presentation. There is so much we do to serve, and none of it would be possible without our incredible team. This year, the team expanded for a bit with the presence of a Maryland 250 fellow, Kittry Post. And thank you to Michelle Johnson and the Maryland 250th Commission for making her time with us possible. Our standing team includes Olivia Peterson, our Heritage Area Assistant. She's shown standing with me. Emily Hubner, our Director of Programs and Operations, and Rachel Nichols, who is our Washington County Assistant and who has managed our visitor center operation at the historic Newcomer House for 12 years. And something came up, and she's very sorry not to be with us tonight. But more than likely, you have gotten to know at least one of us, and you understand just how valuable each member of this team is. But I do want to focus some special gratitude on Rachel. She's stepping down from her role at the Newcomer House at the end of December. Words are simply insufficient. She's coalesced a volunteer corps that feels like family. Each volunteer loves serving every visitor encounter where they're able to send a visitor at the Newcomer House on to extend their travels throughout our 3 counties. She's also innovated creative programming. My most favorite recently was in August, where musicians, again from all of our counties, jammed on the side porch at the Newcomer House after a concert by the Hancock String Band. Our newcomer volunteers are going to gather for a send-off with Rachel in December, but I did want to take the time tonight. I'm so sorry she couldn't be here, but her contribution has been remarkable and is worthy of recognition. So. At this point, I am going to switch gears here. I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker. And I love this theme because it's so relevant to all 3 counties and the history we share. During the war years, thousands of troops camped on and marched through fields in Carroll, Frederick, and Washington counties. Fields and orchards were scoured by hungry soldiers on the move. The grounds of what is now the Carroll County Farm Museum served as a staging point during the Battle of Gettysburg. Barns throughout the region became field hospitals. Some farmhouses still bear battle scars. Soldiers wrote of the beauty and the bounty of this land above the Potomac River and below the Mason-Dixon line. Now, Al Spoler has spent nearly 40 years in public broadcasting, working extensively in television and radio. He is currently contributing editor for MPT's Maryland Farm and Harvest. In 2010, he examined the Eat Local movement in The Maryland Harvest, a documentary about Free State farmers and the support they receive from top-flight restaurants. He has also been the co-host of WYPR-FM's Cellar Notes and Radio Kitchen programs. Clearly, he has a keen interest in locally produced food and wine. And in fact, the latter might be what captivates him most, because the bio he sent me to prepare the introduction focused on his enthusiasm for all things wine. His wine-related activities are widespread. He frequently speaks on wine topics, often covering the history of winemaking in Maryland. He's taught wine appreciation, some to me over the radio, at Johns Hopkins University, and he has served as a judge in numerous regional wine competitions. He is the longtime director of the Maryland Governor's Cup wine competition, which features the best of Maryland wines. And when invited to join us tonight, he didn't hesitate to agree, and I believe that's partly because of his familiarity with and enjoyment of the viniculture in our part of Maryland and Carroll County in particular. So as Al concludes his remarks, we've got a Stump the Chump. I said that wrong. Stump the audience. We'll see who's the chump. Stump the audience, a little game we're going to play, and some of you have already been by the Farm Museum and puzzled over the object that we have to share, so that'll wrap us up. But in the meantime, please join me in welcoming Al Spoler.
I want to thank you all for having me here tonight. This is very much a homecoming for me in one respect. I walked into the hall and just about the first person I saw was Bob Shirley. Bob, where are you? See, there he is. Bob and I, years and years ago, used to ride together with the Carrollton Hounds, and boy, did we have fun. And here's something that is significant about that. I was then, and I still am, a city dweller. And I was probably one of the very few Baltimoreans who actually would come out to the county, Carroll County, and get on a horse and ride around and enjoy it. I think everyone else is probably a native, but it opened my eyes tremendously. One of the first things I realized is that this is one beautiful part of the world. And we would be out there from, early autumn through the beginning of spring. So we were there all winter long too, but we saw the leaves changing and we saw, the forest starting to green up and everything. We saw an awful lot and it was just beautiful. But even more importantly, we had permission to ride over the farms. And we valued our relationships with the farmers very, very highly. In the course of being a rider and keeping my horse at various farms, I did learn an awful lot about what goes into running a farm. And it's just amazing. I met a lot of farmers. And I think that was partly behind what became an abiding interest in the Eat Local movement. I was, of course, a big fan of going to restaurants and things like that back in the 90s and whatnot. And when it became apparent that something was going on, that there was this, newfound reverence for locally produced foods, I thought this is really great. And we had the best chefs in Baltimore dreaming up dishes and executing them and selling them to their patrons based entirely on local produce. It was wonderful. At one point, I still work for MPT. Actually, I'm up to over 50 years now. That I should update that. Send it to you. But at one point, I was going down to Annapolis during the session and directing the TV coverage of the Annapolis legislative sessions. And I spent a lot of time down there and talked to a lot of representative delegates and senators. And I was shocked and upset to learn that way back then, there was a perceived animosity between the folks who were representing the countryside and the folks that were representing the city. And I just thought that was absolutely crazy. And every time I had a chance to talk to particularly the city folks, city legislators, I made a point. Both sides need each other. We can't live without agriculture in the state. We can't live without those Maryland farms. And the farmers love having a marketplace to sell their goods to. So it's a very nice symbiotic relationship. And I don't think anyone who was representing the city achieved anything by opposing legislation that was favorable to the farms. And I still feel that very, 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 very deeply. Yeah, I'm a city boy, but boy, I love the country. And I just think you live in one of the best places in all of America. Carroll County is just really amazing. Okay, it occurred to me as I was sitting there that when I was on my horse riding around here, I was actually participating in agritourism because I was out there on my own volunteering to immerse myself in this world of agriculture. And I was getting to know so much. I was watching the farms and their operations. I was watching nature changing from season to season. And it was just eye-opening and wonderful. And I blessed every day that I went out. Bob, I'm still having dreams about riding with, I bet you do too, about riding with the good old Carrollton hounds. We had fun. We really did. Well, those are my opening comments. Now I have some prepared comments I'd like to get into. Back in 1964, the Supreme Court was deciding a case that involved hardcore pornography. And Associate Justice Potter Stewart famously declared, "I can't define it. but I know it when I see it. And I think that's true of so many things. We can say the same thing about agritourism. As long as we've been living with it, the officials in Annapolis who worry about these things cannot quite come up with a good definition that will hold up to legal scrutiny. The best they have come up with is this. Agritourism is an activity conducted on a farm that offers to a member of the general public or to invited guests the purpose of education, recreation, or an active involvement in farm operations. Sounds pretty good. I do believe that's pretty inclusive, but apparently a regulatory lawyer could find enough holes in it to render it absolutely meaningless. So depending on which department or which county you are in Maryland, you'll find different definitions of what agritourism is. But believe me, I think we all know it when we see it. Oddly enough, this term agritourism isn't American. It originated in Italy in the 1980s, and they called it agriturismo. And it was given recognized structure throughout the country. And believe me, in Italy, they were very, very, and still are very, very serious about their agriculture and finding ways to support it. And they have all sorts of mechanisms for supporting agriturismo. Shortly after that, it came to the United States. We adopted the term, anglicizing it, and applying it to the custom of people visiting farms for pleasure. Now, I suspect that as long as there have been farms alongside cities, city folks and suburban folks for that matter, have taken to visiting farms, especially during the hot summer months. We know, for instance, that wealthy Roman families often had country estates dedicated to farm production and winemaking. And it didn't take too much persuasion for them to leave the heat and squalor of Rome and go out to the more comfortable Italian countryside. In Baltimore, for instance, we did the same thing. We have places like Lutherville and Ellicott City that grew up at the terminus of purpose-built railroads that took city dwellers to their cooler summer homes. At one point in my younger days, I became quite a fan of George Orwell. Anyone a fan of George Orwell? You know, 1984 and all that? Yeah, great writer. I literally read everything that he wrote. And one book in particular was his 1935 novel called A Clergyman's Daughter. Now, in that book, a young, naive woman had an accident that gave her amnesia. And she wanted, it's really lame, as a plot device, but anyway. She wandered away from her father's parsonage and ended up in London, where she had to struggle to make ends meet for a while, but she fell in with some nice people. And at one point during the summer, she realized her friends were going somewhere. They had something cooking. And they were conducting their annual summer pilgrimage to the hop fields of Kent. And they were put up by the hop farmers. They were given food and lodging and money to pick hops. And although the work wasn't easy, it was in the healthy outdoors, and it allowed for boisterous camaraderie. The hop picking episode made quite an impression on me, and it was one of the more wholesome passages in the book. There was a lot of more funky stuff that went on. But only later did I realize that Orwell was describing what was an early form of agritourism. To be sure, generations of city-dwelling Americans have been sending their kids off to the country during the summer months to live with aunts and uncles and grannies on the old farm. And it always seemed to be viewed as a beneficial thing to do, and certainly the kids came back with a much deeper appreciation for the country life, the country ways, than they otherwise would have had. With the 1920s and the advent of the automobile in America and a rudimentary road system, much of the population gained year-round access to the farms of America and could go out for a visit as often as they wanted to. Let's go out for a Sunday drive. It became a very popular concept. Of course, the question was, where would they be welcome? And the answer was they could go to more and more places as soon as the farmers realized that there was a buck or two to be made. And if you want to cater to these temporary tourists, you could make them feel welcome. They would enjoy it. So it was mutually beneficial. The monumental stresses of the Depression and World War II added to the allure of a visit to the country. Not only could you get out of the city into the fresh air, but you could buy fresh produce straight from the farm, saving money and bypassing urban shortages. In the years after World War II, American interest in countryside activities skyrocketed. The rapidly growing suburbs now came into play, and the freedom of driving out to the country was never more appreciated. American farmers are nothing but innovative and creative when it comes to making a buck. Well, all manner of activities sprung up, and I bet you've done a lot of them. Farm stands, hay rides, corn mazes, pony rides, pick your own produce, winery tours, and farm-based bed and breakfast, just to name a few of the activities. Now, while not every agritourism project is necessarily long-lived, they are here to stay. The concept is here, just like the Eat Local concept is here to stay. According to the latest Maryland Agricultural Census, we have 458 recognized agritourism operations in Maryland. That's a lot. That's really good. You don't have to go far, in other words, to find one. Agritourism isn't necessarily a big business in Maryland, despite the fact that agriculture is our leading industry. But it most definitely is part of the burgeoning value-added scheme that sees Maryland farms alter and improve the nature of their products for the benefit of the public and their own pocketbooks. When I was down on the Eastern Shore visiting Chapel's Country Creamery for Maryland Farm and Harvest, I saw a troop of bicyclists pulling up the road and up into the driveway. And for me, it was just one of the most pure forms of agritourism I had ever seen. Off came the helmets, they knocked down the kickstands, and they made a beeline for the tasting room where they sampled their cheeses. And I'm sure that after a little while, they were filling up their saddlebags with all sorts of goodies. Has anyone ever been down to Chapel's Country Creamery, just by the way? Near Easton, really worth a visit. I also think of my friends at the Crow Vineyard near Kennedyville on the Eastern Shore. Not only does my good buddy Judy Crow run a first-class winery, they have a beautiful bed and breakfast right among the vines. It's called Farm Staying, nice idea, and I'm told that their guests love it to pieces. Well, this time of year is the peak of agritourism activity. I can think of dozens of farms that specialize in autumn-related activities. Some farms are so into it that they begin to resemble a not-so-miniature theme park with rides, food stands, and impromptu contests galore. And if you need to have a pumpkin or two, well, there's no better time than now to drive out into the country and visit a bustling pumpkin patch. Today, things are pretty well organized. For instance, we have a Maryland ice cream trail, which is really a lot of fun to do. And we have 6 Maryland winery trails. And you can go to the websites to look them up. There's one that's based right here in this central region with Carroll County and Frederick County. And in fact, it's one of the best. In addition to glasses of wine when you go there, you can come away with a plate full of barbecue. They have music. They have picnicking opportunities. It's just a lot of fun. And boy, do they get big turnouts. They really, really do. Finally, let's not forget what we have going on here in Carroll County. There is a Carroll County Agritourism Passport, and that program enables you to collect credits for visit to all these different places, and that leads to rewards that you can get. So that's really a lot of fun. And it's kind of fun just going around and getting your passport checked off. With that, I would like to just go down a list real quickly of things that you can do here in Carroll County, and I bet you've done a lot of them. Let's start off with probably the best known, which is Boggers. Anyone not been to Boggers? Okay, good. I think they make the best pies in Maryland, by the way. It was founded in 1904, and the market and the restaurant opened up in 1948. They have a pick-your-own operation. They're famous for their pies and ice cream. And there's an orchard where you go, orchard market, we call it, where you go and pick your own. and I'm thinking about going out there to pick some apples for apple pie. Here's a few other places. There's the Black Barn Alpacas Farm in Finksburg. That's appointment only, but you get out to hang out with their herd of alpacas, which are very, very interesting animals. Just don't let them spit at you. Buppert's Farm in Marriottsville was founded in 1951, specialized in livestock, hay, grain, and produce. Their specialty is local produce for sale, and that includes apple cider, which is very popular this time of the year. And they also sell flowers and plants that you can take home and plant, so that's really good for the gardeners. The Carroll County Fair in Westminster is the end of July for 1 week, and it's livestock judging, exhibits, and amusements. I've been to it. It's really fun. An old-fashioned county fair. You can't beat it. Of course, the Carroll County Farm Museum is out there, and we've been holding the Maryland Wine Festival there for decades. Just a great place. Maryland Public Television has been out there numerous times, using it as a backdrop for our Maryland Farm and Harvest. Carolyn's Farm and Orchard in Finksburg, locally grown fruits and vegetables. Here's one that tickled me, Corn Fusion. Anyone heard of this one? Corn Fusion Manchester. It's a corn maze, of course, with a lot of produce sales and related activities. In Sykesville, there's a farmer's market. In downtown Westminster, there's a farmer's market. There's quite a few farmers markets around, as a matter of fact. Also in Westminster, Evermore Farm, which is primarily grass-fed meat producers. And that farm goes back, and this is of interest to all the historians here, nearly 250 years ago. So that's amazing. In other words, at the time of the American Revolution, we were doing this agriculture business here in Carroll County. I love it. Farm Willow Farm in Tawnytown, you pick your own flowers. Hampstead Farmers Market in Hampstead. Gnill's Farm Market in Mount Airy. It's a farm market with lots of children's activities and hay rides. I used to love hay rides when I was a kid until I developed hay fever and asthma and all that kind of stuff. And my mom wouldn't let me go anymore. It was kind of heartbreaking. There's a thing called Local Homestead Products in New Windsor, locally produced meat, produce, and dairy. Old Westminster Winery, very, very good friends of mine. They're not far from here at all. Estate-grown wines, a tasting room, picnic opportunities, all sorts of facilities, and it's a great place to go taste the wine. Have many of you been to Old Westminster? A couple of you? Yeah, let me just tell you something. This is one of the best wineries east of the Mississippi. They are really killing it out there. And Lisa Hinton, who is the winemaker, is one of the most innovative, daring winemakers I've ever met. And they are just really doing some wonderful things. They just opened up a second farm at Burnt Hill, which is technically just across the border in Montgomery County. Doesn't matter. They're still doing wonderful, wonderful things. So I seriously urge you to go visit Old Westminster. As also, we have Serpent Ridge, which is not far from here also. This is a older winery. It's in its second band of owners now are taking it over. I really like their big reds. Finally, the Stafford Farms in Sykesville farm. It's a farm stand featuring meat and produce, and they also build sheds and barns and yard furniture, stuff like that. In other words, folks, there's an awful lot you can do, and this is the best time of the year to get out there and do it. I tell my friends down in the city, get in your car and start driving. You're going to find something wonderful, and indeed you will. There's also operations for Frederick and Washington County. They have websites you can go to if you want to see what's going on with them. They're really busy, and I do believe that this whole concept of agritourism is going to do nothing but grow, because again, I'm using this word again, symbiotic relationship between the people who need the farms and the farms who need the people. And I'm glad we all have each other. That's all I really have to say right now, Elizabeth. And should we ask for questions or anything like that? Oh, I want to make one thing clear. I am not an agricultural expert. I just play one on TV. So I pretend. But if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, Elizabeth, do you want to Carrie, you yeah, sure.
I love listening to you on Cellar Notes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find time to try all those wines?
Gee. No, it's not that hard. It really isn't. Here, I'll just tell you how we do it. We record every 6 weeks, so we do 6 shows at a time. And Hugh is responsible for 3, and I'm responsible for 3. And then on each show, we review 3 wines. So that's 9 wines that I have to taste over the course of 6 weeks. So that's not too onerous. But I do like to just sit down with the wine and spend several hours tasting it, because wines change dramatically from the first moment you pour them to an hour or 2 later. We just did a show about affordable Bordeaux's, and my God, the difference between the Bordeaux's that these are like $20 Bordeaux's. Pour it, taste it. It's really not that good. And I just said, but wait a minute, I know how this creature behaves. Just put the glass down and came back to it an hour later, and it was totally different. It had opened up, it had softened, the flavors had emerged, the tannins had gone down, the acidity was a lot more tolerable. It became a really, really nice wine. So that's why I like to take a little bit of time tasting them. It's important. Any other questions about wine? Yeah.
So it's 2025, there's a lot of things happening in the world, and we have AI. What do you think is the most innovative thing that you have seen either among farms or agritourism as we look for the future?
Well, in terms of the farms, it's the reliance that the farmers have on computers now and computer programming. There are farmers who have tractors that have GPS built into them that enable them to drive a straight line and then turn around and come back and drive another straight line. So things like that are just really, really amazing. In terms of agritourism, I don't know. I haven't pondered that yet, but I'm sure AI is going to have some sort of positive influence. I would hope so. Anybody else? Okie doke, folks. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Al, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight, reminding us of the many ways we have to celebrate and enjoy the areas in which we live here. It is a marvelous part of the state, and you've really sharpened our appetites to see these things for ourselves. We have a little something for you. It's not an egg crate maker. But we have some books.
Oh my goodness.
Which I hope you enjoy. And I think there's also a part of the Civil War heritage area.
And a few other things too.
I'm a huge Civil War enthusiast.
Well, you're in the right part of the world. Again, we want to thank the Historical Society of Carroll County and the Carroll County Farm Museum for helping us stump the audience tonight. The unsung hero so far behind tonight's event is Abby Gruber. Is she here? Abby leads the Parks and Recreation for the City of Westminster. She and her team have been wonderful in preparing this evening and have done a marvelous job with the Durbin House preservation and the rehabilitation of this event center, which is a marvelous facility. We're honored that our annual meeting this year was the center's inaugural event. So, Abby, thank you and your people so much. And a special thanks again to tonight's sponsor, Carroll County Economic Development. You have really outdone yourselves, and you're going to present a challenge to the county that hosts next year to at least meet what you have done for us tonight. So thank you so much, Carroll County. We'd love for you all to stay. I believe there's food. There's also apple cider. The bar is closed, by the way. Sounds like something you would hear from in England, but nevertheless, we have cider, we have food, and I believe there's a special muffins? Apple fritters. Oh my goodness. Okay. So please enjoy those. We ask you to take your copy of the annual report home with you. And if you read it and find there's something that you'd like to participate in with Heart of the Civil War, please be sure to get in touch because we'd love to have you join us. On the way out, if you stop at the registration table, there's a special gift available for you, made possible by the Carroll County beekeepers. Deeply grateful to Margie Perrone and Wanda Rawlings for making that possible, and I think you'll enjoy the little gift of honey that they've set aside for us. So please be sure to take one of those home with you. Other than that, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing your evening. Travel safely and enjoy the beautiful fall weather in the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. Good night.